Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back, or welcome if you're new to the Speak From Within podcast. I am your host, Nasra, and as always, I am so grateful to have you here with me. I am also so beyond grateful for all of the love and the support and the kindness that you guys have showed me. I love you guys all for the sake of Allah SWT already. I started this podcast and this channel to hopefully be a safe space for Muslim girls where we literally can just speak from within and only fear Allah SWT and just focusing on bettering ourselves. So alhamdulillah, I am very, very, very honored to have you with me. Thank you guys all so much. If you have any suggestions for topics or discussions that you want to hear on this podcast, please feel free to send them to me. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you all for your kindness.
رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي.
I know our hearts are heavy, and our hearts have been heavy for the past 5 months. 5 months of the world just silently watching our ummah suffer. And not only just our ummah, but the heart of our ummah, Palestine. Their resilience and their strength and their steadfastness shines through regardless of whatever trial that they're facing. And through them, many of us have changed. We're no longer the same as we were before. But we can never go back to that way. Many of us at times feel helpless. And some of us even ask the question, where is the victory of Allah? Where is the hope of Allah? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in His glory and His perfect knowledge has actually answered this question for us already. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Al-Baqarah revealed to the people of that time and to us as well many thousands of years ago, before we even had the chance to ask, do you really think that you will be admitted into paradise without being tested like those before you? They were afflicted with suffering and adversity and were so violently shaken that even the messenger and the believers with him cried out, Mata Nasrullah? Where is the victory of Allah? Ala inna Nasrullahi qarib. Indeed, the victory of Allah is always near. In Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's perfect knowledge, does He only deliver His victory when a group of people are worthy of it, when they are ready for it. So the question is no longer where is the victory of Allah. Rather, the question becomes, what have we set forth for the victory of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to arrive? And this is a question that can only be answered on a personal level. I want to share a story with you that I reflect on very frequently that will help us answer this question for ourselves. It's the story of Prophet Musa alayhi salam and his people. A nation of 70,000 people were going through a severe drought. Crops were dying, there was no water and no food to eat, and they were all suffering severely. Prophet Musa alayhi salam turns to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in desperation, asking Allah to send down rain for him and his people. He says, Ya Allah, my people are suffering, please send us down the rain. Prophet Musa alayhi salam, the only prophet that had the privilege of speaking to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala directly, waits for the clouds to form and the rain to begin pouring. Yet to him and his people's shock, nothing happens. The Prophet of Allah is confused. He says, Ya Allah, you have favored me so much that whenever I ask you for something, you always deliver. Ya Allah, why is the rain not coming down? Allah responds to Musa alayhi salam and he says, Ya Musa, there is one man among you that has disobeyed me for 40 years. Because of him and him alone, I will not send down the rain. Tell him to leave, then I will send down the rain. Out of 70,000 people, rain was denied because of one man. Prophet Musa a.s. makes the announcement and says, whoever has disobeyed Allah for 40 years, get out and leave. The people begin to look around. Can you imagine how this guy feels? Allah kept him hidden for 40 years, but now in front of Allah and the messenger and in front of all of his people, he has to reveal himself in order for his people to stop suffering, in order for his people to receive victory. What about our ummah today? Our ummah is much larger than 70,000 people, but where do we stand? Could we be the ones that are depriving our ummah from that victory of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? The man, overcome with so much humility, shame and regret, does not reveal himself to the people, but he repents to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala internally with much sincerity. Prophet Musa a.s. and the others are still looking around, waiting for somebody to leave, and as they are looking around, the heavy cloud begin to form over those 70,000 people, and the rain of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala begins to come down. Now Prophet Musa a.s. is even more confused. He turns to Allah and he says, Ya Allah, I asked you for rain. You said that one man has to leave. Nobody left, but you still sent down the rain. Ya Allah, why has the rain come down? Allah SWT responds and says, Ya Musa, the same man that was the reason I deprived you and your people from rain became the same reason that I sent down the rain today. When one man out of that 70,000 people turned to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and set forth his sincerity and his humility, that's when Allah sent down the rain. That's when the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala arrived. Because the victory of Allah is always near. And the story actually does not end there. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy continues on when Musa alayhi salam turns to Allah once more and he says, Ya Allah, please reveal him to me. Because I think any of us would be excited for the rain to finally come down and we'd be curious who that man is. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala responds, he said, I kept him hidden when he disobeyed me for 40 years. Now you want me to expose him after he's turned to me? I will not reveal him to you, Ya Musa. This just goes to show you Allah's mercy and his knowledge. He knows when we are ready for the victory. So what have we set forth for ourselves for his victory to come? I was listening to a lecture by Sheikh Ali Hamouda titled Palestine's Critical Limit. It's a beautiful episode where Sheikh Ali talked about the critical limit that the Ummah is reaching, and that every time a believer or an Ummah reaches that critical limit, the divine care of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the victory of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala comes. He also goes on to say that there has to be a certain amount of righteous people on this earth to exist at one time for that victory to come. Shaitan will try to trick you and say that you transforming yourself, you bettering yourself will not have an effect on the Ummah. But just like that man who was the reason rain was denied for all 70,000 of his people, became the same reason that the rain was sent down from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In the Quran, in Surah Al-Ra'd, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says,
إن الله لا يغير ما بقوم حتى يغيروا ما بأنفسهم.
Verily, Allah will not change the condition of a people until they change what is in themselves. So us bettering ourselves for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the first step that we can take to help our ummah and to help our brothers and sisters in Palestine. It's not the last step, but it's a very crucial first step. And all the other steps after this are completely meaningless if this first step is not established. What have we set forth for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and his victory to arrive? We all know ourselves individually. We know what we struggle with. We know what we can improve on. When you say, I'm going to get up for tahajjud, I'm going to get up for qiyam, I'm going to stop listening to music and I'm going to listen to Quran. You say, I'm going to cut this person off. You say, I'm going to put my hijab on. I'm going to fast for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'm bettering myself for the sake of Allah. That's when the victory of Allah comes. This is a reminder to myself, of course, first and foremost. I hope this serves as a reminder for you also, inshallah. Every time you're bettering yourself for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whether it's big or small, I'm right there with you. I'm doing it too. Let's better ourselves for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to better our ummah and to be of benefit. That is all for today's episode. Anything good I said is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. And I hope this episode was beneficial in some way, inshallah. I hope to see you in the next one. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
قال قد أوتيت سؤلك يا موسى ولقد مننا عليك مرة أخرى